Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap for the week of September 27th until October the 4th. Let's begin with Nomos and their new Tangente 2-date model. Tangente is probably Nomos' most popular line of watches. It's a dress watch with a very strong Bauhaus design language. It's the watch that made Nomos a household name in a lot of watch collecting communities. Well, now there is a new version of this watch available called 2-date, with a slightly different design language and a slightly different in-house movement. So first, the design. Just like the name suggests, 2-date, it has 2-date readouts. There's the standard date window by the 6 o'clock position, like you would find in many other watches. There's also this sort of rotating disc that goes around the dial that highlights the date. I thought that innovation was really cool when it first was introduced a few years ago. Well, now Nomos decided to combine the two into the same watch. Now you might be wondering at this point, why? Why would anyone want this? And I think that was the question that Nomos was asked a lot. And according to them, it's just to give you an indication how far into the month you are. Seeing it on sort of the big display, you can tell that I'm about a third into the month, although most of us can do that math in our head pretty easily. So really, there's no good answer why it has 2-date indicators. It's just for fun, apparently. Outside of this new date readout, the new caliber also features a slightly longer power reserve. Prior to this update, it had about 42 hours of power reserve. Now the power reserve is bumped up to 52 hours, which is sort of more in line with a lot of watches being released in 2024. It also has slightly better decoration on the movement, and these two new models at the moment are only available with either this silver dial or the blue dial. Out of the two, I prefer the silver, but hey, it's nice to have more options. As far as the sizing goes, this is the same size as the standard Tangomat model, so it comes in about a 37.5mm case diameter. It's about 48mm from one lug to another. The thickness is great, under 7mm, 6.8 to be exact, and that depends on which model you go for. The one with the stainless steel case back is slightly thinner by 0.1 of a millimeter, so it's not really perceptible. It is also slightly cheaper. That one costs 2,350 euro. If you want the one with a display case back, it's slightly thicker. Again, you can't really perceive that, and that's the version I would recommend you go for because these movements are very beautiful, and that version costs a little bit more, 2,580 euro. The new Omega Speedmaster, the first Omega in space. Yesterday this watch was announced. I actually went to a launch event for this watch, and I think the watch community was sort of split into two different camps. One camp, Speedmaster nerds that are really excited about this release. The other camp, just sort of standard watch collectors. They're like, what? What is this thing? It's another Speedmaster. Who cares? Slightly different color. So let me explain why a lot of Speedmaster collectors are excited about this watch. In 1962, there was this mission called Sigma 7, and on this mission, one of the astronauts, Wally, wore his personal Omega into outer space. This was before the moon watch. This was before we went to the moon. It was just his personal watch that he bought with his own money and that he wore into outer space. Then Omega became partner of NASA. They had the moon watch, etc., etc. And this sort of first Omega in space version of the watch wasn't available for many, many years until 2012, in other words, the 50th anniversary of the Sigma 7 mission. Then, about 4 years ago, in 2020, this version of the watch, the first Omega in space, was discontinued, and a lot of Omega enthusiasts are a little upset about that. Well, now this watch is back into catalog with a few differences, which I think actually make it even more special. First of all, the most obvious difference is the fact that this watch now has this sort of bluish grayish dial, which actually looks really attractive. I will have a review of this watch available probably next week, so subscribe to the channel, you don't miss that video when it does come out. Secondly, if you're not an Omega fanatic, you might not have noticed that this watch has a slightly different case. It doesn't have what's called turn lugs, it has straight lugs. It is also a symmetrical case as opposed to the asymmetric case on the Moonwatch. And this one, for the Omega fanatics, it has the dot over 90. There's the whole thing about it, but anyways. So there are quite a few different things that make this watch special. It is also smaller than the Moonwatch. This one comes in about 39.5mm case diameter as opposed to 42.5 in the Moonwatch. The like-to-like distance is about 48mm and the thickness is about 13.5mm. It still comes with 50 meters of water resistance, and this one is powered by the new caliber 3861, which is exactly the same caliber as can be found in the most recent updated version of the Moonwatch. It's a META certified high beat caliber, it has 50 hours of power reserve, and it features a coaxial escapement. It's a really solid movement all around. As far as the price and availability of this watch, it's not a limited edition, it's not a special edition. It will be added to the standard catalog. It's available probably this week, and it costs about 7,900 USD on the bracelet, which I think it's pretty reasonable for this timepiece. The new H. Moser Cie Pioneer Retrograde Seconds, aka Midnight Blue. H. Moser Cie is one of these boutique watch brands that I personally have never seen out and about. The Streamliner is probably their most famous line of watches, and there is a long waiting list to buy one of those watches. There's also the other collection called Pioneer, and now there's a new addition to this collection. Each version has a slightly different complication. Well, this new model features a retrograde seconds hand complication. The way H. Moser Cie implemented the complication on this model is that it's a 30-second retrograde, meaning for the 30 seconds, the seconds hand moves along and then it snaps back and it moves again for 30 seconds and snaps back, and so on and so on and so on. Now, that sounds pretty simple, but it's actually pretty difficult to execute because, of course, the flyback of the second takes longer than the standard tick. So in the timekeeping technologies, you have to account for that to still have the watch be pretty accurate. Also, from the case back, this watch just looks spectacular. That's why H. Moser Cie is so popular with watch collectors in high horology, because of the beauty of their movements. This one is powered by the caliber HMC 250, which is an automatic caliber movement. It has 31 joules, it beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it has about 72 hours of power reserve. As far as the case goes, this one is made out of stainless steel, which is great. However, the sizing is not fantastic. It's 43.5mm in case diameter, and it's about 14.2mm in case height. A lot of that thickness does come from a domed sapphire crystal, but the thickness is not the problem. The case size is the problem. You have to have some pretty big wrists to pull off wearing a watch like this. Now, as far as the pricing goes, this will be part of the standard collection. It's not a limited edition, and this watch is priced at 21,900 USD. The new Stowa Flieger Verus Black Forest Lagoon. Stowa is a German watch brand, and they're famous for making Flieger watches, in other words, pilot watches. There's two different types of Fliegers. Well, there's many types of Fliegers, but essentially the two most popular is the Type A and Type B dial. This one is the Type A dial, but what's cool about it, that it's all blacked out. The case is PVD coated, even though it's made out of stainless steel. It features a PVD coated blacked out dial with some blue turquoise highlights on the seconds hand, on the minutes hand, on the hours hand, and that triangle with the two dots at the 12 o'clock position. The sizing of this watch is also super reasonable. If you know Flieger watches, you know they tend to run larger, about 46mm in diameter. That's very common. Well, this one here is actually very conservative. 40mm case diameter, it's about 10.2mm in case height, and it's about 48.5mm lug-to-lug distance, so it should fit comfortably on majority of wrists. There will be 3 different movements available with this watch. They're all Sellita based, it just depends on your preference. So there's the standard automatic Sellita SW200, then you have the manual wind Sellita SW210, and then you also have the top grade Sellita movement with automatic rotor, and the prices reflect that. The cheapest one, the automatic with the base Sellita, is about 1100 euro, and the most expensive one, the top grade Sellita in the automatic version, is about 1240 euro. Now, the look of this watch at first I really liked, but the more I looked at it, the more it started to remind me of movement watches. I don't know if you guys remember those watches, they kind of went away, but at one point a lot of people were wearing these movement watches, and Stowa with a lot of their design choices really reminds me of movement. So I personally wouldn't buy one of these watches. I probably would just get the standard Flieger, but this one is cool if you already have a standard Flieger and you want something a little bit more special. The new Grand Seiko reference SBGW321 and SBGW404. The Grand Seiko SBGW321 comes in a 44 GS style case, which is very popular, and it's a case that fits on majority of wrists just fine. It's made out of stainless steel. It features a boxed sapphire crystal. It's about 36.5 millimeters in case diameter and only 11.6 millimeters in case height. These ones are powered by the caliber 9S64, which is a manual wind high beat movement, beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it has 72 hours of power reserve. Now, the thing that makes this watch different from all the other watches in Grand Seiko's collection is, of course, this new version of the dial. This dial, just like many other dials in Grand Seiko's collection, is inspired by a lake somewhere in Japan. I think the koi fish in the lake or something like that. You know the whole story of Grand Seiko and their dial inspirations. Nevertheless, I think it's a really attractive dial and it's very striking. At least on pictures, it looks like it stands out quite a bit. But the thing that I don't like about this model is the fact that it's a limited edition to EU market only. So if you are in Europe, you can buy this watch from select boutiques. But if you're outside of Europe, well, tough luck. You probably have to go through a third party to buy one of these watches. This limited edition is limited to 300 pieces only, and it's priced at 6,100 euro. Now, the other limited edition that I was talking about is reference SBGY040. That one is made out of 18 karat gold. Of course, it's more expensive. It also comes in a slightly different case. This one is larger, 38.5 millimeters in case diameter, and it's about 10.2 millimeters in case height. And this one is also powered by a different movement. It's a spring-drive movement caliber 9R31. It has 72 hours of power reserve and a power indicator on the back of the watch, so the dial is nice and clean. And this one is also inspired by Sun Lake somewhere with its blue hues, and once again, it's a very attractive dial. Now, this watch is very expensive, as you would imagine, a 18 karat gold watch costing. It's limited to only 20 pieces, and this watch is priced at 31,100 euro. So yeah, quite a hefty price, and honestly, I don't really understand Grand Seiko's release strategy. I think they're doing too much and at the same time too little. Let me explain. They're releasing too many models, but the changes between these models are only different dials. The cases are staying the same, the bracelets unfortunately are staying the same, especially the clasps. Everything else other than the dials are staying the same. So at some point they're starting to compete with themselves. The models are getting too confusing without being sort of too innovative, if you will. Plus, these limited editions to several regions are a little annoying to a lot of watch collectors. If you're in North America and you want to buy one of these watches, now you have to pay a little extra and you have to go through the hoops to buy one of them. So I think Grand Seiko really needs to refocus their catalog. But hey, that's just my opinion, some guy on YouTube. There's also a Seiko release. This one is of a Presage Style 60, reference SRPL19. And just like the Grand Seikos I talked about right now, this one is also Europe exclusive. It comes in a stainless steel case, about 40.1 millimeters in case diameter. It's only 12 millimeters in case thickness and 47 millimeters lug-to-lug distance. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with a sapphire crystal. This one still comes with a domed hard legs, but I think it's all right. And even though this watch looks like a diver, it only comes with 50 meters of water resistance. The movement powering the Seiko is the caliber 4R35. It's an in-house automatic movement that has 23 joules. It beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it comes with 41 hours of power reserve. Now, of course, what makes this watch special from all the other watches in the catalog with the Presage Style 60s lineup is this blue dial. I actually think it looks very attractive. I just wish it came with a sapphire crystal, more water resistance, and it was available worldwide. But as it is right now, I think the watch is okay. It's limited to 3,000 pieces. It will be available on November 1st in Europe only, and this one is priced at 640 euro. And lastly, let's talk about breaking news of LVMH. being official partner of Formula One starting next year. I remember in 2013 when Rolex became the official timekeeper for Formula One, and that was sort of a big deal. Well, now their contract expired, and I guess it became too unaffordable for them, or maybe they got outbid. I would love to know the details behind this deal, but nevertheless, LVMH, the company that owns Tag Heuer, Zenith, Hublot, well, now they will be the official partners of Formula One. So now when you see the racetracks, it will no longer say Rolex everywhere. Now it will be Tag Heuer, which I think is kind of fitting because Tag Heuer and motorsport racing has been going hand in hand for a very long time. Admittedly, it's not Tag Heuer, it's Heuer more so, but nevertheless, I think it's kind of nice that they're getting back to their roots. And ultimately, who cares what logo is displayed at Formula One races? Each team will still have their own partnerships and other watch brands will still be present in Formula One. I also think that other LVMH brands will probably get in on the fun. We are going to see LV limited collections of clothing and such for Formula One fans. There's probably going to be the official drink of Formula One, Hennessy probably, although Heineken is also tied in with Formula One, so we'll see what happens. But nevertheless, I thought it was an interesting news to bring to you guys because I know a lot of you do watch Formula One. So that's it for this week's watch releases and news. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about this week's releases. I always enjoy reading your comments. Thanks for watching this video all the way until the end, and we'll see you next time.